Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi LiveENODING. In this episode, we're gonna study the design of lightsabers. This is the sword used in Star Wars. You're already familiar with, and there are actually like hundreds of variation of lightsabers. I was actually surprised, and then I'm thinking maybe I'll try to design this procedurally using Sphere add-on in Blender. So if you look at the design, for example, let's pick a simple one. They are basically consist of many parts, and if you can break each part, it's actually it's kind of slightly easier. It's not always that easy. The one that's lightsaber by the bad guys usually have some kind of curve, but anyway, they are made of different parts, and then you try to kind of find the one that's repetitive. The one that's repetitive is actually quite easy, like this stripy bits. That's actually the one I tried to recreate. This is actually a good study if you think about it. Just like they're mostly like a cylinder, and then you kind of adding details all along the parts. So yeah, maybe we're gonna do something like this. There's a spiraling one that's actually kind of tricky, but the one that's like this is like a RoboCop. I don't know. They can be made probably using like a revolve, but anyway, we're gonna start with a cylinder. Remember a while ago I made a setup on the cylinder, and I call it like a cylinder hacking in SpareChalk using like a list splitting and those kind of stuff. And the trick is we start with a cylinder here, and then we split the cylinder based on the number of vertices split, and then we are using the bounding box, find the center of each circle of cylinder, and then we scale it. And yeah, and then this is actually the trick you can use. Previously you might have seen something like this. So this is actually kind of nice already. This is like a random scale applied to every circle of cylinder, and this is actually kind of nice. This can be the basis of a lightsaber actually. Um, I don't know, maybe even this is kind of enough to add the details, but and then you use something like edge split, not edge split, maybe bevel, yeah, bevel, and then this is like a quick dirty one, and you kind of add a displacement and all kind of tricky little details, even like a wireframe, and yeah, something like this can be used to generate your lightsabers. Maybe it's just an idea. You can also do something funky like let's see, using this tessellating and dual mesh, you can get kind of this intricate looking design like so. Anyway, we're gonna try explore this a little bit more. So that's the random one using vector noise. Sometimes you get more interesting result using like a cell. Yeah, I kind of like this actually. And there's also the one that's totally random, and it's totally random. I can give like a low and high value. It's gonna randomize it. The key is here is to use a list split for every scale value you pipe it in. This is the one that's slightly more in order. I'm using a sine wave, and kind of I think I clamped it. I floor the value. You can also clamp the value somewhere here if I'm not wrong. Map range. So I think I can give add more control, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's basically I started with with this value that controls the subdivision of the cylinder. And then I use range float. So I'm gonna get a value between 0 and 10. And then here I give like an offset if I like. I don't need the offset for now. And then I multiply it. Multiplier gives me ability to have something like this. Although for the lightsaber, really, it's to function like a handle. You want it to be less. You like that kind of detail, but not too much. And then sine wave, of course, the one that's responsible for it. It's generating this kind of value that you pipe it in to the cylinder, and then you use floor. Floor actually kind of gonna floor the value, creating rigid kind of design like that. And then you can use the multiplier that you get that. This is part of the cylinder that you will see everywhere, but it's only part of it, of course. In order to make like a lightsaber handle, like a complete one, you need to perhaps do some kind of extrusion sometimes. Actually, the one that's kind of long, elongated like this, you can use maybe just a cylinder and then you extrude it, some part of it, or maybe doing similar thing but it's more like vertically. That's multiplier responsible for that, and then you can give it some kind of middle value there. But this is that's interesting. This map range doesn't quite work for that. So that's the add multiplier. Something that needs to be play around with. Sometimes you give this very sharp edges. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't want. But anyway, that's the idea. Is it really to look at the lightsaber and kind of divide it into parts and then try to generate this kind of pattern. This is like more like a sine wave. Maybe kind of tricky to design it procedurally, but it's actually quite fun. And this part, this rigid part, has actually some kind of pattern. This bit, I don't know, maybe you can use extrusion. Let me try. We still have control over the cylinder, and we can actually extrude it if you like. Somewhere down the line here. Extrude, separate faces. Yeah, that's actually add details. Maybe you want that, maybe you don't want. It's always the question of thinking how you want to design, how the final design looks like. This is, of course, giving extrusion for every polygon face. That's kind of nice details, at least for part of this this lightsaber thing. So I'll just call this lightsaber part. But I know in terms of if you are doing architecture, there must be a term for this kind of design. This can be actually based for a building of some sort. But I like this is has some kind of design to it. Remember, it is still like a cylinder, Still can be handy to generate some kind of stupa or like a temple. But we want this to be some kind of lightsaber handle. So this can be quite sturdy. Sometimes I just wanted like instead of making like this kind of chocolate bar kind of extrusion, sometimes I just want it to be like a vertical. So that's can be interesting to think about that. I cannot think about it on the fly at the moment. So yeah, but I think for now this is pretty good. Hopefully you find this useful. Let me know what you think. Of course, lightsaber made of many parts, and let's think how we can combine them together at some point. But yeah, that's how you can modify the cylinder hacking of scale using list split, and then use it to generate handle of lightsaber. At some point we're gonna have like a complete lightsaber. I promise you that. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.